Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Pramanande. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Garanga. I don't know if I need that, but sure. Why not? Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. I know the temple is in the midst of a big book distribution, and I'm imagining that's where some of the ladies may be. What do you think? Is that where they might be? You don't know? Yes? Distributing books? Maybe some of the ladies are distributing books? Yeah. And did you get to connect with that couple and explain what was going on? The couple that left?
Yeah. They have come for the first time.
I know.
They have a kid. They told it's difficult to manage.
Yeah, but did you let them know they could come back another time? And
Yeah.
That was nice. Just so they have some personal contact, because they didn't know what the heck was going on. And I was going to explain it to them, but then they got up and were leaving, so. So, here we are, ladies. Can you come so I can see your face a little better? That's good, perfect. Thank you. I want to see all of you. Is that Naina? You look taller and older than yesterday. I wasn't at first sure if that was you or not, and then I saw your eyes and that's probably Naina. Okay, here comes some more ladies. Welcome. So, I'll speak a little bit, but I'm gonna let it be kind of informal so we can have a lot of questions and answers, because I know sometimes there's not an opportunity so much for ladies to ask questions, especially if there's a man speaker. You know, sometimes there's an inhibition to ask questions, and maybe we don't even know if we're going to get an answer that's going to be relevant. So we'll let this go organically. So the topic today is women's role in Krishna consciousness. So, believe it or not, women have a very, very, very important role in Krishna consciousness. Traditionally, our role has been in a supportive role. We support the men, we support the temple authorities, we support, there you go, we support our husbands, and that's actually a very important part. If any of you have ever been in production of an event, or in a drama production, or any kind of event, it's the people in the background who do a lot of the work. The event may come on and it may seem rather seamless, it may seem like a very nice event, but in the background there's a lot of support people. People organizing the sound, the lighting, coordinating, maybe there's computer effects, doing the marketing, gathering the people, maybe even welcoming the people. There's a lot that goes on to an event that's going to feel like a powerful event. And so women and playing a supportive role is a powerful role in and of itself. Now, I think what word am I going to use here? Our feelings about, our judgment about our role, our beliefs about our role will impact the empowerment we feel or don't feel in our role. If we feel about our role, oh, I'm nobody, I'm just a woman, doesn't really make a difference, I'm not really important. If we feel that way in our supporting role, we might not feel very happy or very empowered because we feel like we're not important. If we feel like, oh no, what I'm doing is very important and we take it seriously and we feel even that our role is important, even if nobody knows that we're even doing it. If nobody knows that we're doing the role. If we feel it's important and take it seriously, we will feel enlivened and inspired to do our role. Now, the good news is that even if no one notices, Krishna always notices. Krishna knows everything. He knows exactly how much we're giving. He knows how much we're sacrificing. He knows our hearts, how much we want to serve. He knows everything. And so our connection and our offering to Krishna with that consciousness really makes all the difference in if we're going to feel depressed or inspired in our role. Now I want to talk about another role that women play in Krishna consciousness. It's the role of nurturing, it's the role of caring, it's the role of interacting, it's the role of paying attention to details. If there weren't any woman within our movement, I can tell you there wouldn't be a movement. Seriously. It's the women who have kept a lot of the temples together, especially in America. Doing the deity worship, making sure the temples are clean, taking care of the devotees. If there weren't women in the movement, we wouldn't have a movement. Now, just because we might not have roles with a title or with some status to it, it doesn't make our role any less important. In one sense, it makes it more important. If we can only do a role because it has some status to it and we get our name in lights, that may not be as pleasing to Krishna as one who's just doing their role and maybe not getting so much recognition for it. That's not to say that just because someone's doing a seemingly insignificant job that we don't acknowledge them. That's part of our role also, to acknowledge anyone and everyone in the roles they are doing, because we know how important it is to be acknowledged. We know that. We know how important it is to be cared for and nurtured. Now, another role women play is in taking care of the children, oftentimes. And it's I wouldn't say it's a very glorious role. And it's not necessarily a very easy role. Taking care of the children, the next generation of children, implanting in the children the seeds of care through our care, the seeds of love and devotion through our love and devotion to them. Planting these seeds will never go in vain. No matter what happens externally, planting these seeds in the children creates a new culture in the world. Children who are brought up in Krishna consciousness, with an understanding of the soul, with an understanding of the value of the soul, even the soul in animals, with the understanding of virtue, the understanding of care and compassion, having that understanding, being brought up with that understanding and being brought up with love and affection, it creates a solid, secure foundation from which that child can grow and develop and enter the world and be a stand for deeper truth, truth related to not relative truth, but truth related to God, to Krishna, to spirituality. Once spirituality is implanted deeply in a child, it can't really quite go away. Even if the child doesn't practice, there's an awareness that God exists, that Krishna exists. There's that awareness, which might not be there for someone who was brought up without that understanding. So that understanding that God is alive and real and is watching us, it's such a powerful gift to give children. So these are some of the roles that we play. And then there's a lot we have to deal with in playing our roles that maybe doesn't feel so inspiring. So I'd like to hear from some of you, maybe what challenges you face, and we can maybe discuss how we might deal with those challenges. Just want to hear a little bit from some of you. I'm turning it over to you a little early because I just want to get a sense. Okay, now I'm going to say something because I don't see anybody raising their hand. You want to say something? Okay.
I feel always I'm the adjustable. I have to adjust for everything.
You have to adjust for everything.
I feel it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I wanted to also say another thing. Women, especially women in India, there's a culture that we can't express ourselves. So thank you for expressing yourself there. But there's a culture where we don't feel we can necessarily express ourselves. We don't necessarily feel that we're going to be heard or even appreciated. And that we have to be, the big S word, submissive, right? Submissive and chaste, submissive and chaste, submissive and chaste. Almost like, the men can do so many things, but there's a huge responsibility on us to be submissive and chaste. So, does somebody want to tend to them, or maybe ask the devotee in the store if he could tend to the guests? If they need tended to? Is he in the store? Is there a man in the store? So, not being able to express ourselves has us feeling that we always have to be the submissive one, that we always have to be the unexpressive one. I'd like to say that we can be submissive and expressive at the same time. Submissive doesn't mean that we throw away our intelligence. It doesn't mean that we dismiss our feelings. It means that we express in a way that maybe can be understood. And we may have to deal with some of our underlying frustration, because if we don't deal with that, when we start expressing ourselves, it might come out almost like a teenager that's finally getting their voice and expressing themselves and wanting to rebel. And some people, in America, they used to call it the feminist movement. I think probably a man made up that word. Because, women are powerful. Women are so powerful that sometimes men might be afraid of women having a little bit more power. They actually might be afraid of it. And yeah, they might be afraid. So we can accept and understand that maybe men are a little afraid of us. And so that when we express ourselves, if we express ourselves in a very respectful but thoughtful way, not in an attacking way, men can usually hear. They can hear, especially if we're not confronting them directly. So I'll talk a little bit about men. Men in general have been taught from early childhood not to cry, to suppress their emotions. Men are strong, they don't cry. And so they've learned how to suppress their emotions. They don't know how to connect with their emotions. Little girls, if a little girl cries, "Oh, are you okay? What happened?" And if a little boy cries, "Why are you crying? Grow up. Be a big boy. Don't be a sissy. Don't be a girl." So we train our men when they're little boys. And I don't know that training is conducive to them growing into a holistic human being where they can express their emotions and where they can even deal with a woman's emotions. If they don't know how to deal with their emotions, they're not going to know how to deal with a woman's emotions. Emotions are just kind of like, what emotion? What are you talking about? Why are you so upset? Like they're kind of clueless. And I can say this because I myself was kind of in that mindset, disconnected from my own heart. Even though in a woman's body I had like a man's brain. And I was clueless about emotions, and I suppressed a lot of my emotions. So, again, back to your question, being flexible. Being flexible doesn't mean losing our voice. When we use our flexibility with intelligence, we can offer a counter proposal. So if someone says, blah, 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 do this, we can say, well, I have this to do at 2 o'clock, gotta pick up the kids at 3 o'clock, got a doctor's appointment at 4 o'clock. I hear that you'd like me to do this. My plate's kind of full today. If you could find somebody else, that would be great. If not, maybe let's talk about another time when I can do it. I won't be able to do it right now. And that way we're open, we're willing. Most women are pretty willing to serve. But let's kind of make it work for everybody.
Especially with the family, Mathaji.
Yes, especially with the family. If it doesn't work for everybody, it doesn't work for anybody in one sense. Because if one of the links of the family is out, it affects the rest of the family. So, we don't want to always just acquiesce. Now that may be something we learned as young girls, depending on our upbringing with our families. If we had a very heavy upbringing, it's like, I gotta acquiesce, otherwise it's gonna be a huge battle or a fight. There may be many different reasons for acquiescing. So we want to be conscious of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And if we have feelings and things that we want to express, we want to find a way and a place and a time to express them. Because if we don't, they'll probably come out in anger, and then we probably won't express them in a very nice way. And then they probably won't be heard. It's really hard to hear when someone's yelling, because all you're hearing is, I'm bad, and I did something wrong, and I don't know what to do with all this emotion coming at me. And so usually the words we're speaking when we're angry don't necessarily really get heard. It does mean, however, that we held in what we wanted to say for a little too long, because now it can only come out through anger. We haven't expressed it earlier on. So we want to get the early warning signals. We want to start expressing ourselves a little bit earlier on. Don't wait until it comes out the top of your head. I learned that the hard way. It's not received very well, and then we get even more frustrated. And you don't even listen to me, right? So, just looking and being observant and self-reflective and self-expressive before we get to that point of breaking. It's a practice. It takes practice. The more we can practice it, it actually gives us even more power. When we can express in a very clear and balanced way before we get really stressed out, it's very powerful. Now you say, we've got kids, we've got family, we've got a lot to balance. We need to be smart on how to do that and how to manage that. I think, in my opinion, what I've seen is that Indian women spend more than half their day in the kitchen. I wouldn't make a very good Indian woman. I don't know how to cook. I make salads and sandwiches, and it takes me about 10 minutes. So, are there ways that we can find to feed our families that don't take so much time? I mean, Indian cuisine is amazing. It's amazing cuisine. And all the treats and all the snacks and all the good food, and each town has a whole new array of sweets. In America, not now anymore, but in the early days when people were vegetarians, like, what do you eat? Peanut butter and cheese? They had no idea how to be vegetarians even. I mean, when I first became a vegetarian, I ate a lot of peanut butter sandwiches. Yeah. What do, you know? You're just gonna eat vegetables? But the Indians really have it down. The Indian culture really has vegetarian cuisine down. However, are there simple ways that we can cook, especially, when our kids are little, so that we have enough time to do all the things and not go crazy? It's just something to think about. And it takes being more creative. Now, that's one thing that women have. They have that ability to be creative. Not that men don't, but they can be creative. Being a cook in the kitchen takes creativity. So how can I make creative things? Maybe not making so many preps. Maybe making 2 or 3 preps rather than 6 or 7. Maybe making simple meals for the tiffins in school, and then, maybe making one elaborate meal. For Americans, a lot of times our breakfast is a smoothie, which would be like yogurt and fruit mixed together in a blender. You could maybe put some protein powder in there, or maybe some oatmeal and milk. Simple meals that are nutritious. It's just a thought, because I see Indian women spend a lot of time in the kitchen, and they've got a lot on their hands to manage. So that's my thought on that. Did I kind of address your question?
Yes,
Thank you. I want to hear the ladies express themselves.
So, Mathaji, we all, you brought one good point that we think differently, and we all will agree that men and women think differently.
Yes.
So, how to cope up, or how to understand that what that person or the other gender speaks, or understanding their mindset while making your point also clear.
Yeah.
How do
Well,
that?
there's this really funny video. It's by a minister, although he doesn't seem like a minister. I didn't know he was a minister at first. He's also a comedian, and he gives seminars on men and women. And one of the seminars, like the man's brain and the woman's brain. And if you watch the video as a couple, like, you'll be laughing. It's really funny, but it's a funny way to hear the truth, and it's a funny way to understand the truth. But when you can have a little bit of understanding of the different aspects of one another, it's a lot easier to communicate. I'll give you that note at the end. The other thing is that men in general, like I was saying before, they're run a lot by shame. They were shamed when they were little. So that's why it seems that men have a bigger ego. They are just more sensitive because they've had to suppress their emotions, and they've got to protect and have that big wall there to protect their emotions from coming out or from being touched, because if you touch my emotion, I'm going to get really upset. And usually men can't cry, so they're going to get angry. They're going to get angry that you're touching my sadness, and I don't want to be sad because I'm not allowed to be sad, and then they'll be angry. So they put up a big wall, which we say, oh, they have big egos or whatever, we might say that, but it's actually a protective wall because they don't want to be hurt. And I think men are more sensitive than women because of the fact that they press down their emotions so much. So they're controlled a lot by shame. So when we point out something that our spouse does wrong, they immediately take it like that I'm shameful. They won't tell you that. They won't acknowledge that or identify that, but their reaction will be to push back because you're hurting them. But they can't say, I'm hurting. They can't say, I feel shameful. They have to push back. Stay away, push back. And so if we can understand this as women, we can learn a way to talk to our spouses, so that we can understand them, and maybe they can learn to hear us. That's one thing. I wanted to say something else about, in New York, one time I was getting interviewed by the India Times. An Indian man was interviewing me, and I told him that I have this theory, which I'm pretty sure it's correct, that Indian men are more suppressed than Indian women. He said, really? Why is that? I said, because Indian women know they're suppressed. It's overt. But with Indian men, it's like they're suppressed because the whole system is, the elders, you gotta listen to the elders, you gotta be a man, they suppress everything. But they're put up, oh, the boys are worshipped, oh, the boys are the best, the men are the best, the men get the best positions. But internally, they didn't get to express their emotions. So there's more suppressed. And Indian women are externally suppressed. But at least we get to express our emotions, even though they don't like it. So they're very sensitive, they're very easily hurt, but they won't say you're hurting me. They will just get angry. And you can understand, even like if there's an animal that's hurt and you try to touch it, it might bite you, right? Because ouch, you're hurting me. So men are very sensitive like that. What else was I going to say about men? Yes.
Don't you think that men are sensitive? I agree with you, but with that emotion that you're hurting me and all, they try to suppress others. Like someone was making some point.
Right.
So taking out some issue.
Right.
Where we know that I will be winner. I am right. So whatever I say, whatever he say, he has to agree in the end. I am the winner. I know that. But because the male part, they think that they are superior. Why we have to prove that he is telling right? We should tell something else. And we have to prove ourselves as superior. And then they suppress us.
Very good point. So this whole point that you brought up about right and wrong, this whole thing, right and wrong, good and bad, this is what causes almost all fights. Between men and women, between men and men, between women and women. And it's all defense. It's all defense. It's all like, if you're right, then I'm wrong. No one wants to be wrong. No one wants to be wrong, because if I'm wrong, I'm bad. No one wants to be bad. No one wants to be wrong. We all feel that way. Were you at the seminar this weekend?
No.
Okay.
My husband sent me.
Okay. Did he get a copy of the books?
I think he did, yes.
You want to find that out, because we all have a pained part of us that feels bad. We all have a pained part of us that feels bad. And then we have a defending and protecting and preventing part of us that pushes out and tries to prove that we're better. If we didn't feel bad in the first place, we wouldn't have anything to prove, because I am what I am, what I am, what I am. I don't have to prove it to you. I don't have to prove anything. I am what I am. The only reason we feel we have to prove it is because we don't really believe it ourselves. We actually really feel that we're bad and wrong. And so we have to prove it to so many people so that we can validate. I'm good. I'm not bad. We have to validate it. But in our validating that I'm right and you're wrong, the other person feels invalidated. And they're on their side, they don't want to feel wrong, so they're going to push back. And we just keep pushing back and forth, and it's really a waste of time. Because both parties probably have valid viewpoints. They probably have something of value to say about it. You know, they have their schedule, I have my schedule, maybe it doesn't work for you, and it works for me. But that doesn't mean I'm right. I'm right that it doesn't work for me, but that doesn't mean we have to do it my way. So this right and wrong thing keeps us in duality. It keeps us swinging back and forth and back and forth, and there's no peace in that duality, swinging back and forth. There's no peace at all. No peace. In Science of Self-Realization, Prabhupada, he's telling us, you need to be self-realized. But if we're identifying, I'm bad, no, I'm good, no, I'm bad, no, I'm good, that's not self-realization. That's ego identity. It's up to us to understand our own ego identity so that it doesn't get in the mix of our conversations. Because when it gets in the mix, it complicates the issue a lot. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be understood. But I don't understand myself. I'm expecting you to understand me. And I don't understand you. So understanding is really important. So the pushing back and forth isn't making things better, it's making things more complicated.
So, Mathaji, you're telling the right thing, but at the end, you know what I will do is, I will just leave it. Okay, when it is coming like he's pushing, I am pushing, he's pushing. Then I said, okay, I'll leave it. You will understand with your own time. And stop the issue. So in that way, and sometimes that doesn't prove well. Actually, means sometimes that is forgotten.
Well, because you're not really detached from the situation. You've just given up. You're like, "Ah, forget it," and you walk away. So you haven't really resolved the issue. You've just walked away from
How
the
to
issue.
resolve? He's not able to.
Okay, so it takes two to argue. So again, if you stop, then there's no argument, but that doesn't mean there's resolution. Resolution comes when we can value and understand the other person's perspective, whether they're a man or a woman or a child. If we want our perspective validated, then we also need to be able to validate another person's perspective also. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. It has to work for both sides. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. Now, women are intelligent. They know how, they manage kids, they manage the house, they manage a lot of things. But we don't know how to manage our own emotions, our own life, our own self-care. And I think this is a big, big issue. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. If we took care of ourselves, oh my gosh, how powerful would we be? But half the time we're running on empty. And we're still managing so much. And the only thing that you're getting is a little bit of agitation, but we're managing all these things, but we're a little agitated. Can you imagine if we took care of ourselves and managed everything? How powerful that would be. How powerful that would be. That is where our power is. Our power lies in us taking care of ourselves, putting the oxygen mask on ourselves. When we do that, when we get enough rest, when we say, no, I can't do anymore, oh, I'm not cooking dinner tonight, I'm sorry, I don't feel well, you guys got to fend for yourselves, or, go out and eat. Even if you don't go out and eat tonight, because I can't cook, or you're going to have salad, or something. I got to go to sleep, I don't feel well, and I don't want to be really sick tomorrow. If we started managing like that, life would shift. Life would shift. I can tell you, the health, one second, let me finish. The health of the female in the paradigm, the health of the female, the strength of the female, the health, the general satisfaction and joy of the female infects the whole family. In fact, there's a saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And you can probably see that that's true. When the woman's upset, it dovetails. And when the woman's happy, she's the center. She's the center of the whole family unit. She's managing everything. She's the center. So if we can take care of ourselves and be joyful because we're getting enough sleep, we're eating foods that are good for us, we're doing some exercise to get out all the extra stress. When we do that, we become super powerful. I just want to check in. Did I answer your question?
So my question was definitely regarding family, but in my professional life, I'm usually the one woman in the whole room, kind of.
You're in one of those scenarios.
Yes.
Fun, right?
Fun, yes, very much. I enjoy every day. And those people are like, okay, I'm like, she's a girl, no, she'll think that way only. A woman, she'll think that way only. And then I have to make my point clear, no, this is the way. So that's why I wanted to understand, like, what is their psychology to understand things, and what's our psychology, so that, we cope up with each other. Because usually I'm in a, not in a one-on-one argument, but a one-on-many argument.
That's really, really challenging, and, but I bet you they do appreciate, even if they don't say it. I bet you they appreciate, they just have trouble saying it.
Yes.
So, I mean, you could always bring up the point, you know, our world is multifaceted. You know, half the population is female. If you want to, like, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm just giving an example. If you want to market to the whole world, you might want to understand the woman's perspective, because that might really help you. If you're married, you might want to understand the woman's perspective, because you're living with a woman, it might be helpful. If you're working a job, do you understand the clientele's perspective? If you want to keep that client, you sure do. So you could put it across in a way that they can get it. Just be creative. Don't say that it's just my perspective and a woman's perspective and me against 5 men. You're intelligent, obviously, or you wouldn't be in that job with all those men. But use your intelligence to be creative and like say, look, you know, you want to understand your clientele's perspective. Half of your clientele are women, by the way. So I'm saying if we bring this into the room here, it could increase our productivity, it could increase our marketability, or whatever. I'm just making it up, but you know what I'm saying. You gotta just be creative. You gotta present it to them. So men like things crisp and clear and simple. They don't really like all the details. Did you notice that about men?
Yes.
They don't like all the details, and we're detail oriented. I had a nickname at one point, endless detail. That's what they called me, endless detail. And I know the details are important, but they may not want to hear them all. So you give them the bottom line, you give them, you make it clear for them, and then you say, if you accept this proposal, I'll delineate the different details, and I'll even let you know which of our team would be good on which details. Well, okay then, go, you just gotta be creative, and do it in a creative way, not in a defensive way. Like if you're coming off that you're defending, you're in a weaker position, because then you're having to push and defend. But if you're coming in a creative way, and putting it out with confidence, with clarity, simplicity, men like the bottom line. Get to the point here. So when you can do that for them, and you can say, look, if you want, I got all the details, I'm not going to share them with you, but I could, if you want to try this idea, I would be willing to delineate the details and even tell you who I think would be good, working on which detail. It's like, okay then, well, you know what I mean? They won't, because you're not coming as a defensive way. You're not coming and saying, but. When you say but, when you use that word but, anything that was said before the but, you're diminishing it. It's like, that was a great idea, but. Well, it must not have been a great idea. That was a great idea. And I was thinking maybe we could just add this one element to that idea, it would really enhance it, like a flavor enhancer. Like you got the good idea and here's a flavor enhancer. Just get creative in how you even describe it, and really be careful to not be defensive. You want to be in the creative realm of putting it forward with confidence, not like you're fighting against 5 men or 6 men. Because if you're fighting against 5, you're going to be exhausted after a while. Yeah, so don't fight, create. And do it so creatively and attractively, they're not going to know how to say no. Especially if you present it very simply. Make your one-liner, like advertisements, they have their one-liners, right?
Yes and no. That's it. They want only it, and else. They don't want any, clauses.
Say again?
So what I have understood that men only like yes, if yes, and then else. So if and then else only they work with. They don't want to know why this didn't work, why that don't work, cannot work. So that's what I have understood. And the what you said, right? Don't use but.
Yes.
So my experience, I have replaced but with however. All completely in my dictionary.
Okay, does that work pretty good?
Yes, it's working.
We can also say and. I say and a lot. And, yes, and.
Okay, I'll try.
And, I've replaced but also, but I use but. I use and more. I use and more. So however, sometimes, however, and at the same time, that is true, because but is diminishing it. Yes, and at the same time, this is another aspect to look at. Does that make sense? And creative, yeah. Yeah, and if they don't want the analysis, you could say, is there a time that we could look at the analysis? Because this might help us for the future. If we analyze what we've done that didn't work, that might help us in our, just to have that information, for the future. And do it as a separate thing, rather than pulling apart what they're doing and analyzing what worked and what didn't work. Because every time you find something that didn't work and it was a person's personal project, they're going to find, I didn't work. They're going to determine, I didn't work, I don't work, I'm not working. They'll take it personal.
So I have personally, it's my experience only, they don't like analysis in
Okay.
personal as well as professional life.
Okay. Okay.
To the point.
Okay, so then see if there's another time when you can do that. There's another way to do that. Okay, now she wanted to finish hers and then I'll go to you. Did you get something out of what I'm saying here?
Yes.
Okay, so then we're gonna go on to a few more questions. And, women are intelligent. They're really intelligent. And our intelligence is not just in one category. It's multidimensional. We have multidimensional intelligence. And I think sometimes this makes men afraid, because they're kind of more, not that no men can multitask, but in general, they're more simple-minded. In general, they're more simple-minded, and we can be all over the place. So, yeah, it's important that we can understand those differences. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is a bit personal, Mathaji.
Do you want to ask it? It's being recorded. It's up to you. You could make it generic. Can you make it generic? It's probably true for more than you.
Yeah, how to now in the sessions throughout the main point is we have to study our emotions. We have emotions are the signals
Yes.
given.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So sometimes our emotions are out of yeah.
Well, probably because we didn't take care of ourselves sufficiently, and we didn't get the early warning signals. You're tired, you're getting sick, this is getting to be too much, you're getting overwhelmed, oh my gosh, you're exploding. Because we take on a lot, and we take on a lot of stress, and we tend to forget to put the oxygen mask on until we're like gasping for breath, and then we can't catch up. So again, it's really the self-care that's going to give us, it's our job, it's our duty to take care of ourselves, because we're such an important part of the equation. We're so important, whether anybody acknowledges it or not. Krishna acknowledges it, we as women acknowledge it, we know it. And I think men know it, they may not be able to admit it always. I'm sure they can sometimes, and some men can admit it a lot of times. But it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves. Nobody can do that for us. If we're pushing ourselves, we're not going to be functioning efficiently. And then we're going to be working and exhausting ourselves, and then being frustrated that we're so emotional. We're going to judge that we're so emotional when actually we're just exhausted and we've taken on more than we can handle. So we want to learn how to be kind to ourselves. Be really nice and kind to ourselves. It makes a huge difference in our ability to be able to function and perform our duties without getting so upset. Now, there may be certain things that happen to us when we were a child that give us, that have us be very sensitive to certain types of pain, or maybe we may get overwhelmed easily. Some people get overwhelmed more easily than others, not just women, but also men. So we have to understand our own scope, our own level of what we can and can't do, and not compare and judge with other people, because nobody had the upbringing that we had. So that's another important point to take into consideration. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? If we could do that, that would be very helpful. In fact, so there's two things I want to tell you. Don't let me forget. Just make the note, I'll tell you by the end of the session. The 10-second stress reliever, and an assessment that we can do, a self-analysis of our strengths and weaknesses. So I'll tell you at the end of the class, I just don't want to forget. So did I answer your question? It really comes down to self-care. It's as simple as that. The more we take care of nature, I don't have time to take care of myself. Well, we actually don't have time not to take care of ourselves. If we don't take care of ourselves, then there's going to be a big blow up, there's going to be a big mess, we're going to feel worse, we're not going to be able to sleep, we're going to be more tired the next day. We want to be preventative, we want to take care of ourselves, which prevents a lot of the messes that we then end up having to clean up. That makes sense? It's really, we want to invest in that area, in that self-care area. It's like pays high dividends. It's a good investment, it's not gambling either. Anybody else have any thoughts? Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead.
Mathaji, I have a doubt, like, sometimes I'm doubtful of my spouse, whether I'm being really cared or not. So such doubt. For example, if I'm being scolded or humiliated by someone else, then that time, of course, I react because I'm receiving. So I need to react. But that time, he won't react. He won't react. He will not support me neither. But the person will be in a very jovial mode that time. So then I'm getting a thought, okay, I'm not being cared. But later, the person tells me, no, you're humiliated and I'm also part of you. So don't worry that you're not left alone. I'm also being humiliated. So when you're humiliated, it's not only you, but I'm also the target. So don't worry like that. But sometimes I feel it's just only the words, but in action.
And what I'm thinking is that your husband is one of those suppressed men, and he doesn't know how to express against this person who is either superior or stronger or whatever, and he doesn't know what to say. But the fact that he's saying, I'm being humiliated when you're being humiliated, but he doesn't know how to protect you because he doesn't know how to protect himself. So just like if I don't take care of myself, it's harder for me to take care of others. He doesn't know how to express himself in that situation. So you could start getting more of a sense of self-worth and self-respect for your own self. And And when someone says something like that, to not be able to take it personally is a very powerful thing. Even if somebody means it personally and they're actually trying to hurt you, if you can just take their words and you take what they're saying, like you didn't do the report on time, okay. That is an important piece of information. But if they're screaming and calling you names and saying you're so stupid and you're this and you're that, you can take that as that person's unresolved emotional issues that they're throwing on you. So you can say, oh, that person's in a lot of pain, and they're throwing their pain on me. And then you can, in your mind, even say, I send this back with love. I send this back with love. You don't have to say it out loud. I send this back with love, and I'll just keep this one little piece of information. The report wasn't done on time, and it impacted this person and triggered them. So the more we can really not take it personal, because in one sense it's really not. Everybody's got their emotional stuff that's going on. Most people have not resolved their emotional issues. In Krishna consciousness, we barely talk about emotional issues. And that's why I'm so much pushing these books, because I really feel like we're missing out on a big piece of information here that would be helpful for all of us. So if we can learn not to take things personally, okay, this person's really upset. I obviously did something that triggered them, and I can trigger people. I know I can trigger, but even if I don't want to trigger somebody, I can trigger somebody. Even if I didn't do exactly what they said, I know I could have done something that triggered something in that person. I can take responsibility. I can trigger anybody at any point in time. Now, does that mean I'm a bad person? Does that mean I'm personally responsible for their full upset? No. But depending on how I approach it, I might be able to, take the way they're giving the feedback with a grain of salt, get the feedback, and if, when you get really practiced, you might even be able to empathize with that person and bring down their upset. But defense doesn't make it any better. But you know that you're standing in your truth, that you're aligned with your truth. You did the best you could. Whether they believe it or not, you don't even have to convince them that you did the best. You know you did, or you know that maybe you didn't do the best you could. Maybe you know that, wow, I was trying to do too much, and I did a lousy job here, and they're mad at me. So let me not take on so much. Let me not say yes the next time. Just take the information without all that emotional stuff and get the information, and then say, okay, maybe I shouldn't take on so much. And maybe I don't want to work with this person anymore. It's like maybe I won't do a project with this person, or whatever. Just, sometimes if somebody gets really upset, I'll hear what they say, and later on I'll say, are you okay? Is everything okay at home? I don't know what happened. Maybe they're in the middle of a divorce. I don't know what happened. I don't know why they're, maybe somebody died. I don't know. Anything could be there. We have no idea what's going on over in that person's world, and we take it all personally, and we make it mean they're mean. We don't know, but we don't need to take it personal. I want to say one more thing. Here's a big point. There's a book called The Four Agreements. Has anybody ever read that book? No, probably not. There's 4 agreements, and it's a spiritual book, but it's a really simple book. It's about 4 principles, which actually really, really, enhance my spiritual life. And I'll just tell you the 4 principles, because you probably won't have time to read the book, because you'll be busy reading my book. The first principle is be impeccable with your word. When you do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, you start to feel better about yourself. You don't have to beat yourself up for people start to trust you more, and they have confidence that they know you're going to keep your word. And things actually work. Integrity actually creates workability. You said you're going to be there, okay, you're going to be there. Otherwise, you're not here, are you okay? You're not answering your phone, did you remember? Are we having this appointment? Are we meeting or what? I'm here for 45 minutes, I got other things to. But what if I'm going to be a few minutes late, I'm sorry, I got stuck in traffic, I'll be there in a few minutes, thank you. So integrity is keeping your word, and then when you can't keep it, then you inform the other person, communication. So that's agreement number one. Be impeccable with your word.
What is the word you said, be?
Impeccable.
Impeccable means just keep your word. For me, that helps me to know if I'm taking care of myself, and it helps me to understand when I am taking on too much. When I start forgetting things, like I'll get off the phone, I'll say, okay, yeah, I'll call that person, I'll tell that person. I hang up the phone, and then 8 hours later, I'm laying in bed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I told that person I was going to call this person, and I didn't do that. I get out of bed, and I write it on my list for the next day, because I forgot. But when I start forgetting things, or missing things, or not looking at even not looking at my calendar, if I'm so busy, I'm not looking, I depend on my calendar, it helps me to keep integrity. I think, oh my gosh, I'm taking on too much. I don't have time to look at my calendar, I'm missing appointments, I'm taking on too much, I'm too busy. And so I start saying no until I catch up again. So integrity helps me to keep my balance, so I don't take on too much and overstress and disappoint people. That's principle number one. Second is, don't take things personally, because they're not. It's not a personal thing that men treat women in a certain way. It's a cultural thing. It's a domination culture. It's a cultural thing. It's, it's what they're trained. It's generational trauma. It's insecurity on the part of men and women, both. So, but if you get the information without taking it personal, it takes out a lot of the charge. Easier said than done, but just think about it as a principle. The third is, have no expectations. Now, it's going to start with, notice when you have expectations and be clear about what your expectations are. Start thinking about that. What are my expectations? Did I actually check in with this person and tell them my expectation? Or did I just expect that my husband was automatically going to be my best friend, my doctor, my lawyer, my finance manager? Or did I check in with him? Oh, and would you like to be a father too? Did I check in with them and see? Or did I just have that unspoken expectation? Now I'm angry that this person is not my best friend or my girlfriend. Sometimes women, we're looking for a girlfriend in a man, and a man doesn't know how to be a girl. A man doesn't know how to be a woman. They don't know how to just work things out by talking about them. That's not how men work out problems. They sit down, they work it out in their head, they work out all the angles, they do the analysis in their head. They don't want to do the analysis out loud. They do it all in their heads, and then they come with their conclusion. Boom, that's it. So, have no expectations. And these are just things to look at. I'm not saying you have to be perfect about that. It's not like I never have expectations, but I tend to really put my expectations on the table. We'll see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's see. And the last one, always do your best. We can't do any better than our best if we just do our best. And we always do our best. We can be satisfied in and of ourselves. People can criticize us, and they say, oh my gosh, there's so many mistakes in this book. Oh my gosh, where does it say that in our scripture? I'm going to say, it's the best I could do. And that's not perfect. I didn't say it's the whole truth. it's the best I could do, and I put a lot of time in it, and it's the best I could do. And then I'm satisfied. And then people have their comments, and I'll listen to their feedback. They might have some information that may help me to do something differently, something they see that I don't. So those 4 things. Okay. So now we're going to go to the next question.
Mathaji, I read this in the book Beyond Illusion and Doubt.
Beyond illusion and doubt?
Yes.
Mhm.
And Prabhupada, while he counters Sigmund Freud's theory, he says we should try to satisfy Krishna's sex desire. Why does he use that phrase?
Satisfy Krishna's sex desire?
Yes, instead of.
Well, Sigmund Freud's his
Yes.
whole theory is based on sex, based on, that principle. So I think it was just a kind of the out-of-the-pocket, quick response that Prabhupada gave. If Freud's talking about this sex desire, that sex desire, Prabhupada just brought Krishna in, you should be thinking about Krishna's sex desire. I wouldn't want to go into analyzing exactly why he said that. I don't think it was I don't think he thought about it for a long time,
Yeah, it was
A
a
conversation. Yeah, and so sometimes in conversations we say things and then later on we might think, oh, there might have been a better way that I could have said that. Oh, no, I didn't exactly. Or somebody comes back with a question and then you say, well, that's not exactly what I meant. Then you can clarify it more because it's just kind of like just a thought, So he was thinking like we should center everything around Krishna. So, if he's talking about sex, then we should think about Krishna's sex desire. So that would be my assessment of that.
Yeah, the remaining part conveys the same actually, as you said, by serving Krishna this way, that way, he says. But that particular phrase was little, contradicting for me, so I don't know.
There are some phrases in the scripture and the purports and the commentaries that sometimes are a little striking. And I think some of them come from cultural explanation and also Prabhupada's upbringing and his perspective, the way he was viewed the world and the way he was taught to view the world. And so they may come across not in a very clear or maybe even palatable way. From my perspective, it's like, what did you mean by that? So that's true with anything that anybody says. So if he were here, we could talk about it a little bit more, but even when Prabhupada first started the movement, we didn't have that opportunity to ask that many super deep questions. I didn't have any conversations with Prabhupada, so. But I'm thinking from what I know in life, that's, we answer from the perspective of how we were brought up and how we understand things. We give examples to how we understand things, and you may not see it that way, exactly. Thank you. There's a question here, she had her, and then you're next, okay? Hare Krishna.
Normally, when we are a daughter, with our parents, it's very easy to express ourselves. Like whether any kind of emotions we can express. It completely changes when we get married and we become a daughter-in-law. So the expectations from us is very high, but the options to express ourselves is nil. So sometimes we get so frustrated. It is like we are not able to express ourselves. We don't have that option because even though we express ourselves, it's not heard from the other side. So how should I handle my emotions in that situation?
That's a question of the year, right? For every Indian girl living with her mother-in-law. No, I'm serious. I mean, it really is. I hear that question all the time. It is the question of the year.
I don't want to change them. I don't expect them to change.
I got it. I hear
How
you.
should I
I hear
do it
you.
in myself?
Well, one thing is, you may not be able to be expressive and be heard by that person, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be expressed and heard by somebody. You know, sometimes, I mean, I have a committed listener friend, and I know that if I'm upset about something, I can share my upset with her just to get it off my chest. And I know she won't buy into the upset, she won't argue against it, and she won't go and tell anybody. She just kind of holds, I can't believe she did that. Why did she say that? That was so like, and then I hear you. And then you've gotten it out. It's kind of gone. It's like, okay, that's how she was brought up. That's how she does it. I'm not going to take it personal. I just had to tell somebody, and now I can go back and do it. That's one thing, to have a committed listener, and it probably shouldn't be your husband, because then he feels like he's in the middle. Oh my God, my mother, my wife, my mother, my wife, my mother. And that really tears the husband apart. So it could be some committed woman who you know, will hold, in all respect what you're saying. And she won't say, you're right, yeah, my mother-in-law. And you don't want to turn it into like a ratting session and a ragging session on your mother-in-laws. But just like a place that somebody can just hear you. And so, find that special person who can hear you and hold that and get your frustration and not do anything with it except hold it and then let it go like that. That's one thing. Another thing we can do is sometimes even with my adult children, I don't know, I didn't live with my mother-in-law, so I don't know if this would work with mother-in-laws. But with my adult children, sometimes asking questions might be a way to express yourself. Like, is there a reason why we put the flower in this container here? I was wondering, this one seems to be a little bigger and it would fit better, and do you think we could put it down here? What do you think? A lot of communication is in how you present it, like the way you're presenting it. Like that's all that marketing is about, right? Marketing is all about how you present what it is you're presenting. So the same thing in communication. You can present it in 10 different ways, and 9 ways no one's going to buy into your product or listen to you, right? But if you can get, if you can connect somehow with that person, I know it's important to you to have things organized, and I like organization too. I was just thinking, I'm just giving an example, what do you think? If we put this down here, do you think that would work? Ask it more like a question than telling them. So then you can express yourself, and she goes, no, we gotta keep it up here because I'll forget that it's down there. Okay, all right, but if you ever want to change, let me know, I'll take care of it. You just leave room for them to grow into it, and they may be able to grow depending on how you present it. And a lot of it is, you don't want to just suppress and hate them, because you have no idea how they were brought up and how they were treated when they were brought up. And they're probably treating you the way they were treated or the way they saw their mother being treated or something. There's something there. And culturally, we know there's a lot of suppression. And then when you get to be the elder, okay, now I'm going to suppress. I've been suppressed my whole life. Now you're going to listen to me, because I have a lot to say. I've held it in here for 60 years. Something like that. So, like that. Okay, is that good? I love your questions, ladies. They're beautiful.
Mathaji, I have a boy.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, he is also a boy, and how to express, I don't know really.
Oh, you can do it. I trust you.
In Telugu, I can express you, but in
You do your best. I'll get it.
Yeah. So, okay, boy, I grown up him very nicely.
Okay,
Uh,
you brought him up very
I
nicely.
can't,
మాధవి మీరు నాకు తెలుగులో
మా
చెప్పండి
తెలుగులో
నేను
చెప్పనా?
ఇంగ్లీష్లో
ఓకే ఏంటంటే
You wanna come closer?
ఒక బాయ్ మనం ఒక బాయ్ని అర్థం చేసుకోలేము కానీ నేను నా కొడుకుని పెంచాను మరి నా భర్తని నేను ఎందుకు అర్థం చేసుకోలేకపోతే నేను ఎదురు బాయే కదా.
Her question is like she has a boy and he is also male and husband is also male. I can understand my son who is male, but why I can't understand my husband who is male?
Okay, perfect, good question. Because we have an expectation that our husbands are all grown up and mature, and they should be mature and strong.
అర్థమైందండి? అంటే మేము ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్ పెట్టుకుంటాము.
మరి అలా అనుకుంటే కొడుకుని మీద కూడా మనం ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్
కొడుకు నా దగ్గర పుట్టాడు కదా మేము ఎలా ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్ చిన్నోడు కదా
మెయిల్ అనేది అర్థం అవ్వదు అన్నారు కదా ఆ విషయం మీద అనమాట. అసలు మెయిలే అర్థం అవ్వరు, అది ఇద్దరు ఈగోయిస్టిక్ అన్నారు కదా. అలాంటిది కొడుకుని మనం పెంచగలుగుతాం, హస్బెండ్ ని ఎందుకు మనం లైక్ ఆ ఈగోని అట్లా ఎందుకు చేయలేదు?
అంటే చెప్పాను కదా మాతాజీ ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్ ఉంటుంది. ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్ పెడతాను మా హస్బెండ్ ఇది అదే మీ కొడుకుతో మీరు ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేయలేరు కదా ఇంత సంపాదించు అది చేయి ఇది చేసి కొడుకు పైన అదే ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్ పెడతారు, హస్బెండ్ పైన వేరే ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్.
We think just because somebody's in a grown-up body that they're all grown up. Most of us are little kids in grown-up bodies. Most of us are little kids in grown-up bodies. And that's why we get hurt and we have trouble expressing. And then, but you know, you're looking at this big man, but he's probably a little kid wanting his mother to take care of him, and you've become his mother. And you're expecting him to be your father, right? Expect him to be your father and take care of you, and he expects you to be his mother, and you take care of him. And what else do we need to do? It's like but we're emotionally, we haven't kind of got to that place. It's so easy to see a little child, little boy, oh, poor little kid, oh, yeah, big kid. What is wrong with you? What, are you still acting like a little kid and throwing a tantrum? No. Most, go ahead.
అదే ఒక భర్తతో మనం ఒక భర్త అనేవాడు కూడా బాయే కదా. సో తనతో మనం ఎందుకు అడ్జస్ట్ అవ్వకపోతుంది?
అంటే ఇప్పుడు చూడండి మీరు మీ వీడికి ఎట్లా ఏదైనా తప్పు చేస్తే క్షమించడం అట్లాంటి అవన్నీ చేస్తారు కదా. యూ హ్యావ్ ఎ మైండ్ సెట్ టువర్డ్స్ యువర్ బాయ్, రైట్? అదే హస్బెండ్ అంటే ఏంటి చిన్నపిల్లల మీరు ఇలా చేస్తున్నారు ఏంటి మీ కొడుకులు మీరేమైనా 5 years చిన్న పిల్లలా ఇలా మాట్లాడుతున్నారు ఏంటి అలా అంటాం కదా, అదే చెప్తాను.
Many women talk about they may have 2 kids, but they say they have 3 kids. Many women get that experience. And at the same time, as women, we have to deal with our little wounded girl inside also. Because that wounded girl is the girl that takes things personal when somebody yells at me and gets hurt. I was talking to somebody, and they were saying something that they thought they did that wasn't great, and it, you know, and I told them to remember back the earliest time, and they remember when they were little, and they did something that wasn't great, and then I told them to talk to that little child, like the person couldn't forgive themselves. So I told them to talk to a little child, like if you see a little child going through a hard time, you would want to help them. But when you see yourself or an adult going through a hard time, you're like, what is wrong with you? You know? And we don't take the time to actually hold them and care for them and allow them to receive compassion. We have trouble getting compassion. Once you get past 20, the door to compassion is closed. to ourselves and to others. Because now you're an adult, you gotta take responsibility, you gotta do everything, and, yeah. So, what we wanna, let me just finish, we wanna, start to take care of the little girls inside of us. And we wanna start being the big one, taking care of the little girl, getting enough sleep, taking care of ourselves, the little girl inside of us, emotionally, physically, mentally, and then we can start healing that little child, and then we can actually grow much more and be more present, to be able to deal with the onslaughts of responsibility in our life, which are a lot. So please.
So Mathaji, what you are telling is true. Like suppose if suppose my husband acts like that, then he is a grown-up kid, and I had that Vatsalya bhava. Oh my husband, you did like this, I know, and all. But he doesn't like it.
Of course he doesn't. He's a big man. You're talking to him like he's a little guy. Now you might understand.
He's acting like that.
That's all right. Just because he's acting like that doesn't mean that he thinks he is. He's not going to. That's the thing behind the wall. That's the little kid behind the wall. This is who I am. Don't tell me I'm a little kid.
How can we help such person? How can we?
We want to have respect. So if we look on the soul level, it's a little bit different. It's a little different. Let's look on the soul level. We are all little souls, little jiva souls in a human experience. It's excruciating for a soul to be in the human experience because you're conscious. You're aware. Animals aren't aware. So when somebody or another animal treats them roughly, they don't have a big story. They don't go talk and gossip about that other animal. It's done. They attacked, we ran away, we survived. Life goes on. In the human form of life, we have this ability to reflect, to think. And that's our access out, but it also can keep us in if it's not properly utilized. So the soul is really struggling in this human experience. All of us, it's not an easy thing. And then we become devotees, and now we're not going to take intoxication to numb us from all this excruciating pain. Most human beings, sometimes as devotees we put down everybody in the outside world, but actually they're doing the best they can. It's so excruciating, they have to take intoxication. It's so painful, they have to take intoxication. If you don't know Krishna, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't know Krishna. I'd be taking intoxication, which is what I did when I was a teenager. Because if this world is reality, it was like, let me escape this world. It's crazy. It's insane. I want to go unconscious. I don't want to live in a crazy world where people are fighting the war in Vietnam. They're fighting over what, whose property is what. It's like, so when we start to have compassion on our own soul, not just the little wounded girl, but the soul underneath that, but both of them at the same time. When we can have compassion for that part of us and know our own struggles and how hard it was for us and the trials and tribulations we went through and we're going through to outgrow this world, then we can have compassion on anybody. And that's different than treating someone like a little child. They may be acting like a child, but that doesn't mean we can't have respectful compassion for them. We can respect that they're doing the best they can right now. That's the best they can do right now. They haven't studied emotions, they haven't done any emotional healing work. They're doing the best they can. They're going out, they're making money, and maybe they're acting immature sometimes. Maybe that's the best they can do.
Mathaji,
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yes.
To have compassion, respect.
Yes.
So, suppose to have a boy. Okay, see, when he is going to fall or do something which is danger to him,
Yes, yes,
then we will naturally take it. I mean, we will naturally go to protect,
Yes.
care, and do something, right?
yes,
Right.
yes,
So we feel it as a duty.
yes.
Okay. Just having compassion, oh my boy, it doesn't work.
No,
We will do
compassion,
something.
actually compassion means taking action.
Action, right?
Okay,
So that compassion is there. I understand that he is struggling with his health, he's struggling with his emotions, he's struggling with his upbringing, health, and whatnot, his own anarthas.
talk about your husband, right,
Anarthas. So I want to help him.
I have a, I
And
get
he
it.
don't want my help.
Yes, because you're helping him makes him feel,
Belittled.
yes, belittled. Even though that's not your intention. Sometimes the best way we can help is not to help. They'll get the reactions they get, and they'll learn when they learn, and we can just hold a space for
So that's what you
compassion.
are telling.
Leave
No
it for
action
time.
but compassion.
Well, we can have compassion. I mean, if somebody's, hurt themselves and we gotta drive them to the hospital, I mean, we're not impractical. But sometimes even husbands, they wanna help their wives and they wanna fix their wives. And sometimes wives wanna fix their husbands. Nobody wants to be fixed, because then that reinforces that I'm broken. And I already feel broken. And if you're trying to help me, you're reminding me that I'm broken. And that's shameful, and that triggers my shame thing, and I can't handle that.
Mathaji,
Yes,
absolutely agree with you.
Yes.
All feelings,
yes,
I am experiencing it every day.
yes.
And from 12 years of marriage, I can truly say that, whatever you are saying is 100% true.
Mm.
But, see.
And I'm telling you, changing that word might even help in your conversations with your husband. And
And it is giving me, what is it, renunciation. It is giving me kind of renunciation. Do whatever you like.
but that is not compassion. See, that is a reaction also. It's like, okay, I help you, forget it. So
So
that's
I
not,
want to renounce and because I have Vatsalya Bhav, I'm directing to my Balagopal.
okay,
Saying that this is the Balagopal, my son is there, he is growing up also.
Okay.
All jivas cannot be eternal child.
Right.
So I have Vatsalya Bhava, so I always think of Balakrishna and
Okay.
that is my Bhava.
right.
And I leave everyone, okay, they are struggling, what can I do? If I help also they don't like. And
Well,
if I do something good also they have bad. So I don't want to prove myself.
Okay, that's
Leave
good.
it. That sort of renunciation is coming in my mind and I'm like,
Well, we want to be careful, because I was unhealthily detached. So we want to be careful that the renunciation is, okay, you don't want my Vatsalya help, forget it. So that's a little different than, okay, you want to learn how you're, that's good, great. Like, more like an encouraging, not like did you hear the frustration in your voice? Like, leave it, I'm just going to be renounced. It's not, if you're really renounced, you don't even have to say you're renounced. You see what I'm saying? If you're really renounced, it's like, okay, all right, whatever, and you're really equipoised. But when you say, I just want to renounce, leave it.
there's a frustration.
There's an energy there, yes, whatever that energy is. It's not, renunciation is kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. It's like really that you really are equipoised.
So I think I should learn that instead of
Okay.
anything else.
That's
Is it
Well,
not?
well, that takes practice, and that means really being detached from the results. Really detached. Because it's like, leave it, okay, whatever. That's not real detachment. It's like, oh, you want to do yourself? Okay, all right. You want my help? Okay, I'll help you. You don't want my help? Okay, You want my help now? Okay. It's like real, like I'm here to serve you. If you don't want me, you want me, you want me, you don't want me. Krishna, do you want to use me? Do you not want to use me? Are you going to make me look like a fool? Maybe I'll look like a fool. Okay, today didn't work. Okay, today my job was awful. You want to help me? You just keep serving without an attachment to any result. That the other person is going to respond according to my Vatsalya Bhav. If they're not responding in that way, it's like, forget it, I don't need a relationship with you. That's not really it. However, you want to look at your frustration and you want to look at your ability to be able to, open up a space big enough for this person for you to include this person, even though he's not in your bhava or he's not responding to your bhava. And how can I connect with this person? Maybe they have a different bhava and I'm not responding to their bhava. So I don't know. So how can I connect with this person on the soul level, maybe? On the soul level.
So, forget, just think of Bhagavad. He thinks whatever he wants, I will think about it.
That's a one way to start. And Balagopal will teach you how to be really responsible.
My Balagopal responds to me only, Mataji.
Okay, but I'm just saying, if you really want to learn, he will teach you how to be renounced in a dispassionate way. You can ask Balagopal, help me. You are my son, but you are my special son. Help me. Krishna can do anything. All
I
right.
just have to survive till my life is ended. I just have to survive. Anyhow, Balagopal will.
Well, you can survive, or you could even learn how to thrive. If you're just surviving is like treading water. I'm just treading water. Thriving is like I'm swimming and I'm enjoying it. So, if there's some frustration there, you might want to look at that. Did you get a chance did you find out if your husband got the books?
He got the book, I saw this.
Okay. You might want to read. Do you think he'll let you read them?
He only sent me, he liked your conversations. And
Okay.
He said that
Yeah.
Mathaji can help you. And
We all need help. We're here in these material bodies because we need help. Now, that doesn't mean we try to help each other, but basically, I just share all the mistakes I made. So maybe everybody doesn't have to make the same mistakes I made.
definitely read the book.
Sharing is a little different than, trying to help. One of the sections in the book is being helpful, is helping being helpful. There's a little section in the book about that.
Mataji, women, I don't know how many women feel like that, but somehow when husband comes and all, why I'm pushed to this person kind of feeling.
Pushed what? Away from that person?
No, I'm brought in front of, why he has come in my life? Why our parents, girl, she's growing up, when she'll get married, when she'll go off, and they start seeing all these things, matches, and some match comes, okay, chalo, push her away, and we wonder, why this person is here?
Believe
Whole
me.
day and night, why is he behind?
Believe me, Krishna wants to teach you something. And if you're curious and you ask Krishna, what do you want to teach me? Maybe he wants to teach you to be a different kind of a mother. I don't know. There are different kinds of mothers. Just think about it. You have a question? Okay, we have a few more. If you have questions, please ask them now, because I'm not going to be here tomorrow.
See, my doubt is like, sometimes we are forced to be kind to someone who really hates us, that we know very well. The person hates me very well, but I'm forced to be kind to that person. So I'm finding very difficult. So either I should be kind or act as if I am kindful. Both are difficult. But
That's an interesting circumstance. Let me wrap my head around this. You know the person hates you. How do you know? Because they say bad things about you? Did they say they hate you? They say they hate you.
many times.
They say, I hate you. Okay. Maybe they're insecure. Maybe they're jealous.
But there are very rare moments where they are kind to me.
Okay. Okay. So, for whatever reason, that's the best they can do. Their soul doesn't hate you. Their insecure little pained persona feels triggered around you for some reason. Maybe you remind them of somebody in their childhood. And you don't know. You have no idea why. Again, you say they hate me, but that means you're taking it personal. For whatever reason, they're upset when they're around you. So, faking being kind, most people can tell when we're faking. We might think that we're really being really a good actor, but most people can feel when we're being authentic and when we're not. It's pretty obvious, right? You can tell when somebody's faking it, right? Can you? Kind of? Can you tell when someone's really not really, they don't really, their heart's not in what they're saying? Oh, that's so nice. Oh, that's so, you know. Yeah. So, you want to be compassionate to the soul inside that body that's really suffering a lot. Anybody who has any such feelings of aggression and hate, they are suffering. They're suffering so much they can't contain it in their own body and they have to throw it out onto everybody else in the world. They're suffering. Now, if you take that suffering and you make that your suffering, that's what you've done. If they throw their suffering on you and you say, please, dear Lord Krishna, I'm sending this back. I can't handle this. I'm sending this back with love and consciousness that maybe someday they can understand this doesn't work. I'm sending it back. But you're taking it. You're letting it hit you. You're feeling the stabs. And then you're trying to be nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're nice. You're taking it. Who said you had to take it? You could say, this does not belong to me. You say it in your head. This does not belong to me. This does not belong. I send it back with love, loving consciousness. I'm sending it back. This does not belong to me. That's one way you can start not taking things personally. Then you could be kind from another part of your soul, like, oh my gosh, this person is suffering a lot. And it doesn't mean you have to hang out with them and be their best friend. But if your paths cross, you can just understand this person is suffering a lot. Does it make sense?
Yes.
We've got to really get to a deeper perspective or a higher perspective to see the bigger picture. Otherwise, we're just bombarding and being bombarded and throwing it back, action, reaction, and we're creating more samsara. Right? And we're trying to be nice.
What I feel is like what you're telling is right, but it's something like I have to be more introspective and something work has to be done within
Yes, yes, yes. You can't just do this with your head. You have to be able to do this with your heart. That means you have to have self-respect and self-care, that you're taking care of yourself, so that if another person throws something on you, you at least have the strength to say, this does not belong to me. I'm sending it back with love. Otherwise, you won't even have the strength to do that. And then they'll be throwing it, somebody else will be throwing it, and you'll be buried pretty soon. Right? Okay.
I had this person in my life who treats me differently when we are alone and when we are outside in a society or with friends. The treatment was different. Meaning there was more compassion outside than inside. Oh, why is it so? At one point I got really confused. We are not in good terms anyway now. I just thought of asking you this.
Yeah. Well, generally in public, we want to put on our best image, put our best foot forward, but it may not be what's actually true for us inside. Now, when a person treats us roughly in public, that doesn't feel good either, but they're probably being more authentic than the person who's nice out here, and when we're together, then they don't treat me nicely. So, and again, the way a person treats us is probably what they learned when they were little. They're probably doing the best they can, and they haven't dealt with a lot of their emotional pains and hurts, and they gotta throw it on somebody else. So the only thing that we can do, really, the best thing we can do is when we work on ourselves, we get all the dividends. We're responsible for our consciousness. We're responsible for what goes in our subtle body. At the end of life, whatever we've invested in that self-reflection and that self-development, whatever we've invested, we get to take that with us, because that's in our subtle body, that's in our consciousness. Even if we don't make it back to Godhead, everything we've invested in that area, we take it with us. We don't take this physical body, we don't take our jewelry, we don't take our families, we don't take our houses, we don't take our money. We take what we invest in our development of our consciousness. We take that with us. And it benefits us now and in the future. And then if you can see that, yeah, I don't want to be around a person who treats me like this, you have every right to, set that boundary and say, I don't need toxic relationships. I got enough toxins inside of myself or whatever. Let me work on myself. Let me hang around people who are interested in working on themselves, and that we talk about, the work that we've done to develop ourselves. Let me meet people who, do conscious communication or compassion. Let me meet with people who are in that realm, that can help me in that realm. I don't need any more drainage. I got enough drainage. Something like that. Does that make sense? Okay. Is it 4 o'clock? Yes.
Just 1 minute.
Okay, so I want to just say those 2 things that we were going to tell you. The 10-second stress reliever. Okay. So stresses come upon us all the time, right? Daily stresses, and sometimes long-term stresses. So what we can do is we can join our hands either this way or this way, like in a prayer. Our hands have a lot of power, actually. Our hands have a lot of power. They have a lot of healing power. If you notice, whenever you hurt yourself, your hand will start rubbing it, right? Our hands have automatic healing power in them. When a little child hurts himself, you rub it, right? And they feel hurt. They feel the hurt getting better. So our hands have a lot of healing power. So the healing power of our hands, we can hold them like this. And then we want to do some deep breaths. And we want to breathe with our diaphragm. So that means when you breathe in, your diaphragm goes out. And when you breathe out, your diaphragm goes in. And you want to breathe through your mouth. Holding your hands. And you want to meditate while you're doing this. May my anxiety and stress, you think about a positive thing. May I release the stress, and may I embrace whatever it is you want to embrace. Peace, love, joy. You think about what you want to have. So you meditate on that. So let's just think about one stressful thing that we went through today. And we'll do this for 10 seconds. We'll hold our hands and we're going to meditate on letting go of the stress and what it is that we want. Joy, peace, love, harmony, compassion, whatever we want. We're going to meditate on that. We're going to start breathing. Okay, ready? I feel a little dizzy. The deep breathing relieves stress. When we're in stress, we often take really shallow breaths. So the deep breathing acts to tell the body. It oxygenates the body. I think you do it with your mouth open, but I'm not sure. That didn't feel too good to me, so, but I'm not sure. Deep breathing oxygenates our body. It gets rid of a lot of carbon dioxide. And just deep breathing. And then holding our hands together in prayer. And we can even say it as a prayer. Dear Lord Krishna, please help me release my stress and embrace your love, or whatever it is we want to say as a prayer and meditation. And you can do that any time of the day. It's suggested you do it 3 times a day at least, maybe more. Pray to Krishna. And just do that as a stress reliever, a quickie, to notice when you're getting stressed out before you're getting fully stressed out, when you're just getting a little stressed out. Start doing that. That's a de-stressor. It's a healing method. It really works. Powerful. 10 seconds. What was the other thing that I wrote, that I told you to write down?
Assessment of our strengths and
Okay. All right. So another thing we can do, most of us don't like feedback because we take it as a criticism. And then we feel like we're at it wrong. But feedback can be very helpful, especially if we were open to receiving it. So there's an assessment we can do, and we can ask 8 people. We can ask as many people as we want. We can choose certain people, or we can, if we want. When I did this assessment, I did 33 people. And I asked both my friends, my relatives, my kids, and people that I thought I rubbed against them, that we didn't see eye to eye. And it was interesting because some of the answers they gave were the same. And I was like, wow, that must really be true then, if everybody's seeing that. And it was helpful information for me about how I operated. So, questions you can ask. You don't have to do this, but it's something that you could do as a self-assessment. The first question is, what are my strengths? And before you ask the person for the feedback, just say, please be honest. I'm not going to hold anything against you for you being honest. I want you to be honest. And then you have to make sure that you don't hold anything against them for being honest. I really want to have this information because you're asking and you're not in the middle of an argument, you're not fighting. generally the information is given in a way that's a little bit more easily received. So what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What can you count on me for? What can't you count on me for? What do people that know me, what do they know about me? What is kind of obvious? What do people know about me? And then the bonus question, you don't have to do this one. Have I ever done anything to hurt you? And that's a tough one. So you might not want to do that one right away, but and then if they tell you, then you can really get, the impact of what you did, and you can apologize and make note of that. So that's just something to get feedback. Feedback's really helpful. You don't have to do this at all. If you don't feel comfortable, don't do it, but it's something that's helpful and it gives us more power. So now, the time is up. I'd like to say thank you so much for your thoughtful, deep questions, for your attention, for your, just really your intelligence and your care. So what's the one main point that I want to hear from each one of you? What one thing did you get from this class? One thing that you got from this class, just that struck you?
What I like.
Yeah, one thing.
Why I should give explanation when I am not wrong, and then when I am believing myself. Why I should prove I'm right.
So just
Yeah,
starting to believe in yourself and having so much self-respect
exactly.
that I don't have to fight or prove my point.
Yeah,
I can just,
that I like it.
yeah, okay, good. And what about you?
Self-caring is important, and we have to invest time on ourselves.
Yay, that's a good one. What about you?
Yeah, the same thing. Self-care. Like we have to invest good time in self-care, and we have to study
No.
our.
We don't have to. Don't make it a pressure. But like, I want to invest in my self-care. I care about myself. I want to invest. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I want to do self-care, invest time in myself, and how to deal with emotions and how to balance the
Yeah.
emotions, and a little information about how to deal with the opposites and gender.
Yeah. It takes a little time, and it's just one step at a time. How about you? Did you get something?
Yeah. First, you should understand yourself so that you can understand others. The same thing, if you are giving time to yourself to understand, you will definitely understand the emotions of others and you can deal with that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. How about you? Hare Krishna.
I had known you for the last few days and you were talking about compassion. Yes, this word. So really understood the meaning of compassion. And one thing we need to do is introspect ourselves. Instead of trying to preach others, it's better we preach ourselves and then the whole thing will work.
We can't change anybody out here. I tried for decades, really. It never works and they get mad at you. So let me work here, let me work here, and I get all the profits.
So we don't need to be the moral police for others. We need to work on ourselves.
Yeah.
And definitely I'm doing that on myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. How about you?
First thing, self-care is very important, Mathaji.
Yes.
And second thing, I learned that we are women. We have a lot of responsibility as a daughter, as a wife, and as a sister. So we have to be a good, understandable person first. Then we'll understand others. Yes.
Nice.
And last thing I learned, Mathaji ki, wait, I'll note down.
Go ahead.
Don't try to survive.
Yeah, we
try
want to.
to, right.
We want to thrive, we want to be alive, we don't just want to survive. Everybody's surviving, but what's the quality of their life? May not be very great. How about you? Lots, okay, yeah, we know you got a lot. How about you?
Yeah, so I wrote some quotes.
Uh-huh,
The soul does not hate us when we are in fight with other person. We can just understand our soul doesn't hate. Their soul is not hating us. That's just the body.
yeah, it's,
Okay, the other one is like, if there is bad things coming to us, then we can say this does not belong to me. So we
yeah.
must believe.
Yes, this does not belong to me, I send it back.
Yeah.
With love and consciousness, I send it back. I send it back because I'm not taking it. It doesn't belong to me. Yeah. But I might make sure I do the report on time. You.
Mathaji, like whenever we are getting frustrated, we should take a pause and then do self-reflection. Be first kind to yourself. Like that way we can remove most of the like tensions and anxieties.
Yes.
If we become more self-reflective.
Take a pause, do the 10-second breathing thing. I'll let you know if it's, I think they said through the mouth, but I don't know. I'll let you know. Anything else? That's beautiful. Thank you. And you?
She's not comfortable in English actually, that's why.
Okay, did you want to,
Yeah, but
did you understand what I said?
Self-love,
Ah,
love, compassion, truth, love, compassion. Yes.
that's it. See? 3 words. Nice. Beautiful.
I think but should be with and. It should not be but.
But instead of but, yes.
And instead of but. And the other part was keep your words.
Keep your word.
Yeah.
Be impeccable with your word. Okay. Naina, do you want to say what you learned? No, okay. All right, go ahead. It's your turn.
Self-care, you should be compassionate on yourself first, then you can understand others. Don't push your limits too much, otherwise it will come in a not a good way.
Yeah,
That's why.
Yeah.
And then the 4 principles.
yeah, the 4 agreements. Thank you.
Understanding yourself and take responsibility to take care of.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody else is going to do it for you, believe me. We take care of everybody else. We've got to take care of ourselves. We're the source of that self-care.
Hare Krishna Mataji, as you told me that thing, first I need to take care of myself, then only I can take care of my child and my husband and my guest, the life drum. So all over the lecture I understand, first I need to take care of myself, then only I can handle my guest, the life,
Perfect.
everything.
Perfect.
Thank
Boy,
you
if
so much
everybody
for-
does that in this room, we're going to have a paradigm shift in this community.
Thank you so much for giving me
Thank
such a
you.
nice session.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It was lovely that you said like, you take care of yourself first, then you can do the other works.
Yeah.
It was very nice. You can take some time, it's okay. If
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't do this, take a break.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I never heard this word. If I say I'm doing this, no, you have those responsibilities, these responsibilities. You have to do that. You don't have time. How can you do this? So it's nice. Someone says, take a break. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was nice,
Yeah,
Mathaji,
yeah.
to
It's
hear
nice
that.
to hear. There's enough pressure in the world.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also, like when you speak with your husband, you can be creative.
We can be creative with men.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Very
Yeah.
good.
Sometimes we'll be creative with our kids, but we miss the point with our
Exactly.
partners.
Exactly. Let's be a little creative here. Have fun with it. Be creative and have fun. Don't make it like. It's not going to go well if you start with that energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have to identify the emotions like when it is raising. We have to watch it before it comes through our head. So we should learn to. We are so busy that we normally miss that.
We miss it
We
completely.
miss it. We don't know something is going within us.
And if it does come out of the top of our head, then we just backtrack. Okay, I lost it. I'm tired. I'm taking a break right now. I need some space. I'm not going to have this conversation with you now because I don't want to say things that I'm going to regret. And next time I'm going to try to catch myself before I get this far along. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for this beautiful lesson.
Uh-huh.
I've learned a lot of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And the thing I like the most is that when you have to convey something to others, it always does not have to be like the hard way.
Yeah.
To be soft and being kind is not a weakness.
Yes, it's not a weakness.
Normally when I talk to my friends, I once ask them about what they don't like in me. They normally say that because like I'm very strong on what I say and I always have to be right. So I think it's something I like.
Yeah, and you can work on that at a very early age. You don't have to wait until you're my age. Oh my gosh. I waited a long time, and it's a little harder to learn when you're older because you've been practicing those habits for a lot longer. So it's great to get the information when you're younger, and you can start practicing it, and you'll see miracles in your life. Your friends will say, "What happened to you?" Yes.
So one main thing is not to take anything personally, and also self-care, that is more important. And also I should notice the early warning signals at the right moment and take the break at the right time. If not, then it will be a plaster for me and for others.
Yeah, and it's not that we're never going to take things personally, but when you notice you're taking things personally, put it aside and say, okay, this does not belong to me, and hand it back. Thank you. Yes?
There is someone on the YouTube wants to ask a question.
Okay, please.
Her question is that we learned that Mandodari was supportive to Ravana, but not agreeing with him. So how to understand that? Wherefore we draw a line in a life in supporting a partner in the non-Krishna consciousness.
You mean Ravana's wife?
Yes.
Yes.
She
She was
would-
supportive to Ravana but was not agreeing with it. How do we understand that? And where can we draw a line in our life in supporting a partner in the non-Krishna consciousness? Line to be drawn.
Wow. I think that is not a general question. We would have to specifically talk about that because there's not an across-the-board answer to what to do. It depends on what, our husband is asking us to do. And of course, the story of Ravana, I don't think she could oppose him. She would have been killed, probably. That would have been the consequence there. There wasn't really any space at that time in her position to oppose him. So, we have to really look at the situation and understand what's going on. And if there's something that's out of the ordinary or a little over the top as far as violence goes, then we might want to consult with someone who knows about abuse and then, work from there. That might have to be assessed. So, where do we draw the line? Abuse, there's verbal abuse, there's emotional abuse, and there's physical abuse, and there's sexual abuse. Abuse is where we draw the line. We don't want to allow abuse. So, but you might have to find some counselor that might be able to help with that. That's what I would have to say about that as a general answer. I also wanted to say, I don't know if everybody got the book. If people didn't get these books, I'm leaving. I can sign the books today. If you haven't gotten the books, I put my heart and soul in these books, and I really did put a lot about all my mistakes in the books. So all the questions that, it's a conversation between three devotees, and it's a story, and all the questions that they're asking, are questions that I had myself, and that I had the wrong answers to, and then I kind of learned through the process of trial and error and lots of mistakes, what was really the case. So if you haven't gotten the books. They're 800 rupees, and I have a barcode if you want to pay online, and I can sign them. And if anybody has any personal questions, I'm willing to stay here for another hour, and we can talk about personal questions. Yes? Okay, so after everybody leaves, so just wait, and then I'll see if anybody wants to get the books. We'll do the book thing, and then we'll deal with personal questions. You want to take the book? Anybody else who wants to take the book? And I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you. Vanchika Patribhyascha Vipassana Patistana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shila Prabhupada.
So we should thank Mataji by 3 times chanting.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Yeah, so anybody who wants to get the book, this is our last chance here. Right? Yes.
Here into mark is there, Mathaji, is there? Here one into mark is there, but I don't know whether recording will go or what. There it's not there. I will mute it first. You want me to